we need to address a bit of a mindset that I've had in the past, and I think a lot of church leaders can fall into, and that's that, man, I need to feel bad or sorry about asking somebody to do something.
This is so good. Yeah.
Like I need to be apologetic because they're busy. Like we kind of say no for people.
Right.
And we've just learned, I feel like this is a muscle that we've kind of grown over the past couple of years. Just like, man, that is just a fundamentally wrong understanding of what serving is about in the church.
Exactly right.
Like the church exists to build people, not the other way around.
Yep.
Serving, just like giving, is an active part of their discipleship.
Right.
So by having a ICNU or a shoulder tapping conversation, it's actually a discipleship conversation.
This is Breaking Barriers, where we help pastors and churches grow so that they can go.
All right. Hey, guys, welcome to Breaking Barriers. You are in for it today because this is part 2 of the how-to portion of getting into this concept of multiplying services. Man, I'm back with my good friend and incredible pastor who has got worlds of experience with this, Pastor Randy Titus, in studio today. All right, so let me ask you a couple more questions around the systems thing, because some of that stuff was still a little 30,000 foot.
Yeah.
All right, so, and we're going to do a case study in just a second.
Sure.
But, all right, so when I think about moving to 2 services, I think first and foremost is what and how are we communicating?
That's right.
Vision and logistics.
Yep.
Okay. And when I think about it, it's like, all right, well, you got ground war and air war.
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit about that. All right, so man, we're going to 2 services 6 weeks from now, or 2 months. I don't even know if that's the right timeline, but when do we start? What do we do? Air war, ground war.
Yeah. Air war, man, when we use that phrase, we're talking about from the stage, kind of from the church. What are we talking about? How are we talking about it? And for us, man, we just pull out all the stops. I mean, we've done some crazy stuff. When we did the Sunday night service, I remember we were passing out those tumblers that said church is better at night or something like that.
Anything to get people to realize. Because, dude, all they care about is trying to get their kids to school the next morning.
Yep.
I mean, we got to just keep remembering that. Like, people have real lives that are not ministry, like where their kids are sick and they're trying to figure out their next mortgage and blah, 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 whatever. And I think we can get in such a, where we're like, well, we've already said this 100 times.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
Yeah.
By the time we're sick of saying it, our staff has just heard it. And by the time they're sick of hearing it, the congregation is just barely hearing it. And it's not their fault. It's just life, man, and this is not their job. So sorry to interrupt.
No. Yeah, I mean, so for us, like at minimum 4 weeks out, we're just starting to hammer that thing from the stage.
That's a minimum too.
Yeah, absolute minimum.
Yeah,
I would say 6 weeks out, is even better. I mean, you're taking 5 minutes, if not a whole sermon, to talk about why this is the most important next step for us as a church, directly connected to our vision, our mission, really trying to give people the framework for why this really matters, why this is important for our church in this season, and why, honestly, this is important for them and their growth. It's not just about the church growing, it's about their growth as well. So, we're doing T-shirts, we're doing mugs, we're doing all kins of crazy stuff.
So, other things come to my mind with Air War, church-wide email,
text message,
lead pastor social media, social media from the church's handle.
In-service videos.
Yes, videos. Any kind of, could potentially even do mailer.
Yeah.
People think mailer is only to people that are not going to your church, and we were like, man, sometimes the best mailers are within people that are at your church or at least in your database. All right, so we understand, okay, air war, and this is the big thing, and I've learned this over years, all right? When you try to go comfort as the main messaging, it's going to fall flat.
Yeah.
Okay, because again, comfort, you're talking to the audience that's not in the room.
Right.
So the best messaging for this is the heartbeat for it, which is move for the mission.
Yep.
Let's get uncomfortable. We got people that are willing to sell out and move their life to South Asia we can go to a different service time, people.
Right, yeah.
Right? That kind of idea.
Yeah, people respond to vision.
Yes.
Like need, they'll respond to that for a little while, but as soon as that need is gone,
right.
the motivation's gone. But the mission is always going to be asking more and more of people.
Yeah.
And so we
all right, so that's air war. All right,
yeah.
So let's talk ground war.
Yeah. So ground war, man, this is, man, I'm not talking about from the stage. I'm not talking about a mailer. I'm talking about face-to-face conversation with somebody that I have a relationship with.
Right.
That means, man, I'm evaluating if I'm a team leader that's leading, one of these teams and kids or worship or whatever, I'm looking at the people in my sphere of influence. And remember, I'm trying to double everything, trying to replicate things. And who has maybe previously been involved in my ministry that life happened, they've kind of fallen out of things. Man, I got to re-engage that person. This is a tremendous opportunity for people to step in to greater leadership roles. Who's that person that maybe has some leadership ability? And I need to have an IC&U conversation with this person. I need to get on the phones. I need to get on the text message. I need to take them out to coffee. That's the ground war. Like by ministry, man, who is on my list? Who am I going after? Who am I recruiting to be a part of this thing? Because God is going to move through this second service. It's going to be awesome, and you want to be a part of it.
So let's just go ahead and, when you have the mic, you can sound like you're awesome, right?
Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and pull the veil back for people here. We have lacked ground war
100%,
and we're getting better at it.
Yeah,
like we've realized, like, man, we're not great at that, and we are getting better at it. I know when I was kind of getting awakened to this year and a half ago, we were talking about moving. I think it was actually about a service time. It was like we need to move people so that we can get ready for this, or maybe it was moving people to the regional north. Yeah,
that's what it was.
Campus or something like that, but. We started talking to one of the churches that mentor us, and they're way ahead of us in every metric you can. And we're like, what? I think we were talking to them about trying to move people to student camp or something like that. And I'm like, man, what's y'all's version of ground war? And he's like, well, our team would just take a week and they would literally personally phone call every single kid that's in the ministry and their parents.
Yep.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like our people would flip about that because that's a muscle we haven't built.
That's right.
And I'm like, well, we need to start building it. And I'm like, they would call, and this is a church you would think does everything from the stage.
Yeah.
And he said this phrase to me that I'll never forget. Only being able to move people from the stage is a sign of weak leadership. And it was crushing.
Oh, it went right to my soul, man.
Yeah, I know, because we all knew it was true.
Yeah, that's right.
We were all like, man, that's true. That's true of us. And we need to grow. That's a muscle we haven't flexed. We've tried to get better about it. And yeah, so I remember like when we were talking about moving to Regional North or moving to no service time, it's like, every campus pastor, you guys are our executive team. Like, man, who are the people you have a relationship with? Like, we need to sit down with group leaders. We don't just need to like cast it from the stage.
Yeah.
So
get in the war room, build out a list.
It's exactly right. All right. Okay. So another thing I thought was the actual mechanism of bringing in new leaders. I first heard Dave Ferguson talk about the 4 most powerful words in the English language, IC&U. So you've talked about that. We also have a concept from Michael Fletcher, which is shoulder tapping.
Yeah.
When it actually comes time, those leadership positions, you got to be invited into that.
Yeah.
So, we got to get, again, war room. Yeah. What are we got to multiply services here.
Yeah.
I mean, the band can play 2 sets.
Yeah.
So that's not really, but if you want production or if you want, whatever, you need to start building out more, serving opportunities, kids teams.
Yeah.
So how do we actually go from, man, this is the pool of people we need to that's going to be the leader for the new service?
Yeah, I think right on the front end, I would want to say we need to address a bit of a mindset that I've had in the past, and I think a lot of church leaders can fall into, and that's that, man, I need to feel bad or sorry about asking somebody to do something.
This is so good, yeah.
Like I need to be apologetic because, man, this is not really something that I would want to do, and they're busy. Like we kind of say no for people,
right?
And we've just learned. I feel like this is a muscle that we've kind of grown over the past couple of years. It's just like, man, that's just a fundamentally wrong understanding of what serving is about in the church.
Exactly right.
Like the church exists to build people, not the other way around. Yep. Serving, just like giving, is an active part of their discipleship.
Right.
So by having a IC&U or a shoulder tapping conversation, it's actually a discipleship conversation. And that, I know that's a different framework for people because I feel like in church circles, discipleship is, hey, we buy this book and we're working through, we're meeting in the coffee shop once a week and we're working through. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But man, people grow by being called into things that are hard and maybe outside of their comfort zone.
Right.
And so I think
and in community.
Yes.
Everything we're talking about has a multiple people component. It's not individual.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think we've just got to kind of get over that mindset.
Yeah.
Stop saying no for people and actually believe, like, deep in our bones that this is actually really good for them.
Yeah.
And if we start from that, I think the shoulder tapping conversation is a lot easier. To go up to somebody and say, hey, man, there's this opportunity. We're launching a second service. Man, we need somebody to lead this team. Let me tell you what leading this team is going to accomplish. Then you start talking vision. And leading this guest experience team, man, people are they're gonna drive in to the parking lot at Mercy Hill Church. They're gonna know exactly where to park. They're gonna have the first thought in their mind is, oh my gosh, they were ready for me. They're prepared for me. Somebody's gonna greet them at the door. There's gonna be a bag that we've thought through that has the first time guest card and a gift for them. Like every part of the experience, man. I think that you will be incredible for this position.
Right.
Now, I've got a couple other people on my list I'd like to talk to as well. But man, I wanted to come to you first.
Yeah.
That's a different conversation than, hey man, I know this is a lot. I know you got a lot going on in your life. Man, we really need this. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do it, and I don't really want to do it. You know what I mean? I've had those conversations.
That's so true, man. Dude, if people don't get anything else out of this, they need it. That is gold. And you know how we all know it's true? This is how I know we know it's true. You and I both have, we got kids, and I think about my kids. Okay, if I just transport myself into the future, they're 28 years old. They've been married for 2 years. They're expecting their first kid. All right, in my mind, what does health look like for them in terms of church involvement? You know what it is? They're going to an off-service time. You know, they're attend one, serve one. They're probably, because they don't have kids yet, they're actually serving and attending maybe at 2 different times.
Right.
They're coming on Thursday night for attendance. They're serving on Sunday morning, maybe even both services.
Yeah.
Man, they're following a Dave Ramsey plan. They don't make no money. You know, one of them's a teacher, one of them's a nurse. You know, if they're married, they're not making a lot of money, but dude, they're faithfully giving their 10%, and you know, and they're doing that, and they're really thinking about their 2 weeks of vacation. One of those weeks is going to be Kids Week.
Yeah.
If that's what I want for my kids, because I know what kind of spiritual health that is going to lead them to and be a fruit of, why would I not want to ask other people to jump right into that?
Yeah.
You know, the exact same idea. So that's really good. So it's a shoulder tap. It's a good conversation. And then the last thing I'll say is, and I'll just say this and we'll move on. I want to ask you about Northeast. You want to celebrate what God's doing.
Yeah.
So, you know, we only get a few momentum bullets. Planting campuses is one, churches is one, sending missionaries. You know, we could name a lot of these things, but doing another service, I think, is one of those things where you can have the attitude of, well, we know this is stressing the church. We're sorry, but we got to do this. Or it's, hey, man, look what God is doing. How awesome is this? We got double the amount of people serving now. Right. You know, that kind of thing.
And you've been a huge part of it.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have happened without you.
That's right.
You know, so I love that. All right. Hey, Northeast Campus is moving to a 3rd service. Yes, so we're right in the middle of this right now.
That's right.
I would love for you to just give us the case study, bro. Like, when did they start talking about it? What metrics drove it? They're making a different decision. They're launching our church's only 8 a.m. service. They did that based off a survey they did. Just walk us through for a couple minutes the idea of just a case study. Our church is doing this right now. What does it look like?
Yeah, so our Northeast campus is one of our newer campuses, and it's kind of on the northeast side of Greensboro. And, man, they just had consistent growth over a couple years. And we're just been keeping an eye on it in that executive team meeting every week. Like we said earlier, we're looking at the 4 tires. Well, last fall we started realizing, man, they're kind of getting a little close. Yeah. Like there's been a couple weeks in a row here where, man, they've kind of been over on their seating capacity. They're kind of also over on their parking capacity. So we got to make a plan. So we went to the campus pastor, said, hey, this is your campus, man, come up with a plan. Put something together. How are you going to address this need in your congregation? Because I know you want your campus to grow. We want your campus to grow. Man, we got to remove some of these barriers to growth. So campus pastor puts together, a 6-pager, a plan basically for all of that, of how he's going to address that. Man, we need, X amount of seats added to the worship space. We got a little bit more room for that. We got to add more parking. So we did some of those measures. Guess what? Campus continues to grow. Here we are, first quarter of this year, and man, it's continuing to grow, and so we're still violating that adult capacity. So we got to come up with a plan to launch a new service. So we went through these steps. Man, we know the why. I mean, that's just baked into our culture here, especially our staff culture at Mercy Hill. What's the strategic timeline? What's kind of a big day or a big season that we can, plan on launching this third service that's going to help it sustain momentum over time. And then on that campus pastor's plan, man, what are the teams that need to be replicated? How many people do you need in each position? What are some of the systems that need to be addressed? Planning center, some of those other things. How are we going to come up with all that? So we had him put together a plan. He starts meeting with his team. He's recruiting. He's doing all of that. And here we are, ready to get this thing up off the ground.
That's great, man. So you probably said it, but so it's probably been a 4 month, maybe 4 months from. I mean, we've been having this discussion earlier, but 4 months from. All right, man, we gotta do this. Yeah. To let's try a few things. To all right, now we got to have a plan, a real plan.
Yeah, and then there's as far as communication, there's a big thing for us is concentric circles. It starts kind of at the staff level, making key leaders, elders aware at the campus, making key leaders on the teams aware. All of that started happening months ago. Before we get to that sort of air war.
Right. Good, man. All right. Well, I'm excited about that, and we'll see what God does with it. And I think one of the things that's good to note on that, it's a more normative size campus. I mean, in terms of church sizes in North Carolina, this is a church, this is a campus with 200 adults. So it's not, I mean, I know that's still bigger than maybe the normative size, but generally speaking, this is not a plan. It's the same plan whether you got 500, 800, 1,000, or 200. Yep. It's the same metrics driving it. It's the same principles driving it.
Yep.
And so I think that's really good. All right, man. We're going to finish with a lightning round.
All right.
This is really cool. So you have had the opportunity to coach some, and we got a church, again, more normative size, under 200 total attendance, and they're looking at doing this because they need to, because it's principles that drive this stuff, not size. Yep. And they asked a bunch of questions, and I grabbed some of those that I just thought were super practical. And so I'm just going to fire them at you, and I can speak to them as well. Yeah. All right. How much time is needed between the services? This is a big question.
It's a source of much debate, even internally on our staff team.
Right.
If you ask some of our teams, I won't name names, like 30 minutes minimum. If you ask our leadership, and if you ask me, I would say 15 minutes.
Right.
And here's why. I think there is something magical. There's like a buzz that's created when you have services that close together where people are actually rubbing shoulders and they can feel the momentum of the church. Man, when they're passing by the 9:15 crowd going into the 10:45 service, that actually creates a lot of energy in between services. And so I would say 15 minutes is totally fine.
Yeah, you got to have the parking to do that, though. Yep. That's the problem. It's like, man, if people haven't left before others are coming in, then you got a real problem. Yep. All right. How often is it expected for volunteers to serve? So are they every single week for the rest of their life? And I know this varies by team, but generally speaking, what do we think is reasonable here?
Yeah, like you said, it varies by team. Some of our teams, they ask for a commitment, 6-month commitment, a 1-year commitment. Some of our teams, again, it's different between kids ministry, production, worship, even by service. It's a little bit different. So like our worship teams, I think you mentioned this earlier. They're involved in both services. We have 2 services on a Sunday morning, but they're on a rotation. So I would say, man, we're trying to push everyone to attend one, serve one, but worship's a little bit unique because they can also attend the service that they're worshiping. Like they get to sit in and hear the sermon. For kids ministry, man, we're trying to get people to serve on a very consistent basis if they're also in a worship service. Like, don't love the idea of somebody, actually not okay with the idea of somebody serving every single week and not being in a worship service.
Totally. Yeah.
So that's a really big thing for us that we push kind of across the board. So I would say it varies by ministry. What we're trying to avoid is somebody who's serving every single week, not sitting in a worship service.
Man, another question, what is a healthy expectation for the percentage of adults attending versus the ones that are serving? Yeah. So I just was doing the quick math. I don't know if this is healthy or not, but ours is probably 15 to 20%. Yeah. And now we wish it was 100.
Yeah.
because it's not need-based, it's growth-based. Like we want, personal growth.
Yeah.
We feel like everybody attending should attend one because that's what attendance is.
Yeah.
It's not coming to receive without giving.
Yeah.
But you're dealing with a volunteer organization. Not everybody is going to do that, so it's maybe 20%. What do you think?
Yeah, that's one of the metrics that we look at every single week. It's on our executive team scorecard. And I would say over the last year, it's been anywhere from 18 to 24%, pretty consistently. Like you said, I'd love to see that number be much higher. One of the things that we just believe deep in our core is that engagement drives attendance. The more people are engaged and serving, the more likely they are to attend and to bring others along with them. So yeah, we want to see that number go up, but that's been pretty consistent for us over the last year.
Man, you mentioned this, but what do you do for how do we try to make sure services aren't maxing out? I mean, we already talked about this. It's casting that vision, right, for other. Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, just paying attention to the numbers, anticipatory leadership. Yeah.
Right. Parking lot chaos between two services. What do you do? I mean, really the only thing that there is to be done is you have to balance that principle of the magic of people going and coming with, is there actually room?
Yeah.
We've also done other things. We've had staff and volunteers park in different places and just
we've reached out to adjacent businesses and said, hey, for this season, can we use this parking lot? I know you guys aren't using it on Sunday. We'd love to have that available. We're just trying to remove barriers.
Another question. A lot of churches attach events to their gathering, so they're going to do a church-wide fellowship afterwards, or they're going to do something of a picnic, or they're going to have lunch and a speaker, come in. It's harder with two services. What do you do?
Yeah. That's a great question.
You just got to tell people to come back.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you really can do. There's not enough time in between services. So yeah, if that's a big part of your culture, I would say tell people to come back, or maybe think about things that aren't attached necessarily to the service, but are at a time where everybody could come and be a part of that.
Yeah, or you tell them, hey, our expectation here is that if you attended the first service, you're serving the second. Yeah. So we got no problem with it, right?
Exactly.
You should be here anyway. If you're not, then you shame them.
That's right. Guilt culture. That's what we're after.
Just create that guilt
and shame.
That guilt culture. No, I thought they did a good job of this at one of our church plants I was at recently down in Tampa, Florida. I went down and preached down there, and they did this. Now they're doing a serve 1 to 10-1, but like, if we're being honest, again, 20%. I mean, you're not going to get in a volunteer organization. Everybody's not going to do it.
Yeah.
In fact, the majority of people aren't.
Yeah.
As much as you wish they would, and you think it's good for their spiritual health. But what they did, they tried to create a really attractive environment outside. So, I mean, they're in Florida, they're in Tampa, awesome weather, it helps. But, they just said, hey guys, we got coffee outside. We're going to do, whatever cornhole yard type games. Yeah. We're going to just, hang out for that second service. As soon as the second service is over, we're going to flip the room. Yeah. And we all got lunch together.
I mean, we wrestle with that. We do things like that around Kids Week and other events. We've done fall festivals and things like that. It's attention.
The other thing is you just replicate everything.
Yeah.
I mean, so like if we say right now we're doing Sunset Slush after the service, that means we're doing it 11 times.
Yeah.
It means we need 11 different Sunset Slush people to be out there carting their little thing around, and that's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, man, I got a couple other ones, but you know what? We'll leave it right there. Randy, this has been great, man. Yeah, I really appreciate your wisdom on this. Guys, if you're liking the content here, please subscribe and share it with somebody that needs it. Man, we're doing this to help people grow and help their churches grow. We'll see you next time.